You might not think of it to listen to me, but I'm actually a pretty optimistic guy. No matter how bad something is, I typically try to find some good in it, which is why I decided to review E.T. this way. Now before I begin, I just want to make it clear that I'm not doing an in defense of E.T. video. I fucking hate this game. It is an abominable piece of shit and I wouldn't want to play it again if you put a fucking gun to my head. Instead, think of it more as me trying to salvage something good out of a rotten experience. Also, since everybody and his mother has given E.T. a negative review, I wanted to try something a little different. So anyway, let's get into it. Top 10 good things about E.T. for the Atari 2600. The opening music is decent. Certainly it's not going to win any awards, but at least it sounds like a piece from the movie. Also, I like the lack of music in the game. Admittedly, the sound effects can get on your nerves after a little while, but as I'm often fond of saying, I'd rather have no music than bad music. And after all the shit this game puts you through, would you really want to listen to a looping soundtrack like this? No, I didn't think so. The E.T. character sprite looks somewhat like E.T. Well, actually it looks more like a blob of animated green shit with legs and the snake's head from the monster in Dreamscape. But hey, at least they tried. And considering how little time was given to make this game, they could have just settled for putting a brown dingleberry in the middle of the screen calling that E.T. Once you know what to do in the game, it isn't so much hard as it is frustrating. Your actual mission in the game is pretty simple. E.T. is stranded on Earth and he has to pick up 3 pieces of a phone so he can phone home to the mothership and get picked up before he dies. In theory, it should be the easiest goddamn thing in the world to do. But in practice, it's made 1,000 times more aggravating by a host of little annoyances. Among these annoyances are the infamous pits where the pieces of the phone are hidden. To obtain the pieces, you have to literally fall into the pit, collect the piece, and then levitate your way back out. But the problem is that the controls are so fucking bad that half the time you'll just fall right back into the pit. And seriously, pits? Fucking pits? This was the best the game designers could do? Secret rooms I could understand, but fucking falling into pits? Jesus Christ on happy gas. If I didn't know any better, I'd think the designers wanted this game to fail. Here's a little bit of constructive criticism. Get rid of the pits and half the game's problems would be gone. To be completely fair though, the game does give you a method of finding which pits carry the phone pieces. On each board, if you stand in a certain spot, a question mark will appear at the top of the screen. As soon as it shows up, have E.T. lift his head, and if one of the pieces is present, a brief yellow flash will appear in the pit where it is. By process of elimination, you can figure out which pits carry the parts and save yourself some time. But I do have to wonder, if E.T. is telekinetic, then why the fuck doesn't he just levitate the part out of the pit instead of falling down there to get it? Perhaps an even bigger annoyance is the fact that doing everything except standing still will make you lose life. Getting hit by enemies I can understand, but just walking around fucking kills you? Christ, if E.T. jerks off, is that going to kill him instantly? And as if those annoyances weren't enough, you have to deal with the FBI agent who steals your phone parts and the scientist who tries to take you back to his lab so he can give you a homemade anal probe. On top of all those annoyances, you also have to find one spot called the phone home zone. Once you assemble the phone, you have to go to that one particular spot in all the boards, then get rid of the FBI agent, the scientist, and Elliot, make the call, and then race all the way back up to the forest to meet the ship before time runs out. Oh yeah, and when you get to the forest, you have to stand on a particular spot called the landing zone, and if you're not standing on this spot when the time runs out, you will not get picked up. Or if the scientist just happens to come along, you won't get picked up, so you have to do it all over again. Isn't that neat? If the designers had just omitted 1 or 2 of these annoyances, in particular the pits and the phone home zone, then the game would be a hell of a lot more bearable. The game is generous with health power-ups. Some of the boards have tiny dots that you can collect, and as it turns out, these are Reese's Pieces. Alright, so maybe it looks less like a Reese's Piece and more like a piece of deer shit lying on the ground. But in any case, if you go to a certain part in each board and have E.T. crane his neck, he can regain a significant amount of health with each Reese's Piece that he consumes. These parts are indicated by a dot within a concentric circle at the top of the screen. In addition to the Reese's Pieces, the game also gives you multiple lives, and every time you die, Elliot will appear and revive you with 1,500 life points. There's even an opportunity to earn an extra life. You can do this by finding the pit with the broken flower in it. Once you've found it, walk over to it and crane E.T.'s neck. The flower will bloom again and you'll get an extra life. But then again, considering how annoying the game is, I'm not sure you'll want to take it up on that offer. The game is completed and can actually be played. Although E.T. is a terrible game, at least you can play the damn thing. Sure, the programming is glitchy, and the gameplay is repetitive, and the whole thing has zero replay value, but at least you can stick the damn thing in your Atari 2600 and play it. Compare that to a game like Action 52, where some of the games don't even work, and other games just crash as soon as you start them. Or compare it to a game like Big Rig's Over-the-Road Racing, which has virtually no collision detection. You can pass right through bridges, buildings, other trucks, and you can even go over mountains at over 100 miles an hour. Okay, to be fair, E.T. has some issues with collision detection, in particular with the scientist and the FBI agent being able to walk across pits while you fall in them. But even with problems like that, at least the game has something resembling the rules of reality. At least when you fall in a pit, you land on it and don't just pass through it and keep falling and falling forever. And at least when you move from screen to screen, you don't drift off into some infinite never space that the designers forgot to program. That alone puts it above an abomination like Big Rig's. So the very least you can say about the E.T. game is that if it wasn't done well, at least it was done. You can actually fail in this game. You might be wondering, what's the big deal about failing? You can fail in any game, but consider this. Going back to my example of Big Rig's Over-the-Road Racing, in that game, it's virtually impossible to fail. No matter what you do, you can't lose. And without struggle or the possibility of failure, there's no challenge and no real reason to play the game. At least in E.T., your actions have consequences. If you run out of life too many times, you die and you have to start the whole game over again. Clearly losing in a video game is not an earth-shattering concept, but if I had to choose between playing a game that was impossible to win and playing a game that was impossible to lose, I'd choose the former over the latter every time. And though E.T. suffers from neither extreme, the possibility of failure at least promises some degree of challenge. E.T. can hustle. I've lost count of how many times in the past I've played games where the main character plods along like they have cement in their shoes. But at least in E.T., the little bastard can move it when you want him to. Sure, it takes away a shit ton of life. However, if it helps you get through the game a hell of a lot faster, I'm not against it. The game actually has an ending. You get to the landing zone, the spaceship picks E.T. up, and then we cut to a nice scene of Elliot and E.T. stranded in Waterworld for all eternity. It's just one pissy little scene minus the English and the misspellings. However, it's also there. You can point to it and say, "Hooray! I won one of the worst games of all time." It's not like Red Heat for the Amiga or some other games I won't mention that just loop right back to the fucking beginning after you finish them. The game does follow the source material to some degree. Maybe my memory is a little bit fuzzy, but I don't remember any part of the film where E.T. fell into a pit or got a knee trembler from one of our government's finest. Yet despite these fabrications, the game did get some parts of the film right. It has E.T., it has Elliot, it has the government agents, it has the Reese's Pieces, and it has the alien phoning home and getting picked up. In fact, you could argue that this game is more faithful to its source material than something like, say, Superman 64. Christ, could you imagine how fucking bad this game would have been if those bozos at Titus had gotten their hands on it? Probably knowing them, E.T. would fall down the pits throughout the whole goddamn game. Or what if Mystique, the makers of Custer's Revenge, had gotten their hands on E.T.? They'd probably have the little brown guy raping an Indian woman while going, "I'll give you something to phone home about, bitch!" Overall, it's far from the best video game adaptation of a movie ever, but it could have been even worse. They never released a sequel to the Atari 2600 version. Although other E.T. games were released for the Atari 8-bit computers and other systems, we can thank our lucky stars that nobody ever decided to make a direct sequel to this fucking game. But then again, considering the fact that a bunch of these games got crushed and dumped into a New Mexico landfill, I don't see how the hell anybody could convince Atari to make another one of these games. Imagine if by some berserk twist of fate, this game had actually been really popular despite all its flaws. Then we would have to suffer through a couple more years worth of E.T. 2, E.T. Returns Yet Again, Mrs. E.T., E.T. Jr., E.T. gets fucking raped by a bunch of psychotic clowns, and Christ knows how many other awful sequels. So in a perverse sort of way, I'm actually glad that the game is this bad, because if it had been just a little bit better, somebody might have gotten the idea of, hey, let's make another one of these, and then we really would have been fucked. So in conclusion, even if I had been able to list 100 good things about E.T. for the Atari 2600, and trust me, that would have been well beyond my abilities, I still think this is a fucking horrendous piece of shit. Unless you have a burning need to waste a small chunk of your life in such a hopeless endeavor, I heartily suggest that you avoid this game. But if you ignore my advice, don't come to me looking for another 10 reasons why it was worth playing this game, cause trust me, it was hard enough coming up with the first 10.
Yes! Another video game review! 2 video game reviews in 1 week, and I promise you, This is a good one because this game is bad. I bet you all didn't expect me to make a second game review. I just pulled a John McCain. Completely out of fucking nowhere. Bam, another game review. I think I made a mistake. I want to apologize for something. I said Rocky and Bullwinkle is the worst Nintendo game ever made. And I think I take that back now. This is the worst Nintendo game ever made. First of all, let's just dissect the title screen. Let's take a moment and listen to the off-key piano MIDI music on the title screen, okay? You hear that? It's like a walrus with Down syndrome is slapping his tail on a piano. AD 2020, a plague of narcotics transcending the bounds of... Holy shit! Are you kidding me? Who can read that fucking fast? That's how long the fucking story message was on the screen. And they throw me into the game. I didn't press anything. They literally gave me no time to read the story or do fucking anything. And this is the fucking game. What does this remind you of? This reminds me, some games remind me of like Final Fantasy VII. Some games remind me of Metal Gear Solid. Some games remind me a little of Mario. They have a platforming element that reminds me of Mario. This game reminds me of getting gang raped by an Iraqi military force, okay? This game is the worst thing you could ever do in terms of playing video games. You're supposed to be this kind of cyberpunk detective from the future who shoots his gun, who goes on this like pier and kills bad guys on the pier. Drug addicts, because as you all know, if someone sells drugs, you are now morally obligated to murder them. You're selling pot on the pier? Motherfucker, I'm going to shoot you in the face. You see that? That must be drugs up there that I'm picking up. Now there's one horrible thing. There's a lot of horrible things about this game, but one that just makes me fucking sick and makes me wonder why they do this is the way you move in the game. You don't move up or down or left or right. Well, you move left or right, but you don't move up or down. You see, moving up, when you move up and left. And when you move down and right. It's like to enjoy the game, I have to play it with my head tilted to the side. It's fucking unbelievable how this game can fail at so many aspects. Oh my god, this is a bad game. Color Dreams Inc. I think those fuckers made a lot of shitty, like, unlicensed game. You must destroy Pitbull, the drug kingpin who has become the... Oh, fucking A! I started at the bottom of the story and I couldn't even finish reading it. Mission briefing. You must rid the pier of all drug deal... For fuck's sake! They don't even let you... They literally give you 2 seconds to read 2 pages of story. It's fucking insane! Now, the drug dealers in this game aren't hard to kill. But you know what's a bitch? Is getting fucking killed by pigeons and dog shit and tomatoes that are all over the pier. Like, you get hit... Did you see that? I stepped on a tomato and blew the fuck up! Look at this! It's a fly! Literally a green little fly is harder to kill than a drug dealer with a fucking gun! Oh my god, this game is horrible! Who made this? Who made this? Why did they do this? I mean, literally, what were they fucking seriously, what the fuck were you thinking when you make something like this? A travesty like this? Why are black seagulls murdering me? Why are they after me? Why? What the fuck? Look at that, you see that fucking little bird, that pink bird? Bird shit is a form of attack in this... A pile of bird shit just fell on my head and I exploded! This review's over because I literally will have a heart attack right now and people watching this review will literally never touch another video game in their life if I continue. Thank you all for watching. I want to apologize for making a video about this game. Really, this goes beyond entertainment. This is punishment to viewers, okay? I am so sorry. Really, so sorry. Goodbye, my friends.